Hi everyone, and we're back with more Sword of Convaleria. So a preview video for Agata has been released on Sword of Convaleria's social media pages, so I figured I'd make a review and build video for her next. Agata is a really interesting character with an amazing character design. So in this video, I'm going to review Agata's skill kit, as well as her skill build and her potential skill and equipment setups. First, we have her trait skill, called Silver Wolf Queen. The first part of her trait skill allows her to ignore the effects of frosty tiles. These are tiles that are covered with ice, and they typically reduce your movement range, and when you're knocked back, you'll go all the way to the edge of the ice. However, in Agata's case, she's immune to the effects, so she'll move normally on frosty tiles. So the next part of her trait skill is after dealing physical damage, she inflicts 1 stack of wound, up to 4 stacks, lasting for 2 turns. So wound is a special mechanic. It's a debuff that increases non-percentage, so piercing damage taken by an additional 12%, and reduces healing received by 30%. It's stackable up to 4 times and cannot be dispelled. So this mechanic is great because it increases your damage output while reducing the amount of healing that's received by the enemy, which makes them easier to take out. This is a really important component of her skill kit, and it synergizes really well with her skills. You'll see in a moment. The next part of her trait skill says, at the start of the battle, she gains Wolf Awakening 3. This is a buff that increases attack and physical defense by 20% and movement by 2 tiles. It also grants Climb and Jump. Additionally, before launching a single target attack, it will grant Armor Piercing if the target has wound, and for each stack of wound on the target, it increases the physical damage dealt to them by 5%, and this buff cannot be immunized or dispelled. At base star level, she only gains Wolf Awakening 1, which is the same buff, but it gives less attack, so you only get 10% attack, and she doesn't have the armor piercing portion of the buff. However, you do get the damage increase for each stack of wound that's on the target. In addition, the movement, climb, and jump portion of the buff are excluded at level 1. At 3 stars, Wolf Awakening increases to a level 2 buff, and this increases the attack increase by 15%, and it also adds in the movement increase by 1 tile. The Wolf Awakening buff increases to level 3 at 5 stars, and this adds a buff for climbing, jumping, and armor piercing. Agata's trait skill also gives her an HP increase of 30%. At base star level, the increase is only 15%, but it increases to the max of 30% at 3 stars. And the last part of her trait skill is, after attacking, for each stack of wound on the target, Agata inflicts piercing damage equal to 10% of her HP. This can be activated up to 2 times per round. At base star level, the piercing damage is only equal to 4% of her HP. It increases to 7% at 2 stars, and the maximum of 10% at 4 stars. And you'll see as I move forward in going over her skill tree, how this trait skill synergizes really well with those skills. Agata also starts with a skill called Permafrost Ground. This deals piercing AoE damage equal to 35% of the target's HP to all enemies within a 3x4 area in the target direction. She also gains Frost Warrior for 2 turns. This is a buff that reduces damage taken by 30% and increases the distance a character can move by 1 tile when on frosty tiles, which is a really great buff because this skill is also an ice skill, so it transforms the tiles into frosty tiles, so it's not hard to get the value out of the Frost Warrior buffs. It is a bit expensive with a cost of 3, but it's actually a really great starting skill. At rank 1, you have a damage skill and a passive. First, we have a passive called Combat Therapy, also called Inspired Healing. With this passive, after initiating an active attack, heals the ally with the lowest HP in battle by 20% of the character's physical attack. This passive is okay, but she has another skill that provides more healing than this, and you get damage out of it, so this passive ends up not being all that useful. Her other option at rank 1 is called Fight Off or Knockback Pursuit. This is a single target attack that deals 70% physical damage. After attacking, she performs Pursuit, dealing 70% damage and knocking the target back 2 tiles. This skill has a lot of utility because of the knockbacks, so it's recommended to take this skill at rank 1 over the passive. At rank 3, both skills are important. The first skill is called Silver Flash. This is an instant skill that deals piercing damage. With this skill, she charges to a location and deals 30% damage to all enemies within a 1x3 area in the target direction, dispelling 2 buffs and inflicting 2 stacks of wound. She'll also gain dodge for 1 turn. This is one of Agata's core skills, because it helps you apply more stacks of wound, which makes this skill synergize perfectly with her trait skill, because for every stack of wound, it's going to increase the piercing damage. Silver Flash is also an instant skill, so it combos well with her other skills because it's going to apply more stacks of wound, which means the follow-up skill is going to deal more damage to the enemies. Her other skill at rank 3 is called Queen's Decree, also called Queen's Announcement. This is a physical attack that deals 80% damage to all enemies within a 3x3 area in the target direction, and inflicts Vulnerable 2, which is a debuff that increases damage taken by 20%, and Speed Down 2, which is a debuff that decreases speed by 100, and these debuffs last for 2 turns. This skill is great because it only costs 2 and it has no cooldown. With the right setup for energy recovery, you can cast this every single turn. It's really great for cleaning up large quantities of enemies because it is an AoE attack, so it is recommended to pick up both skills at rank 3. If you're short on Castalias, pick up Silver Flash because it's considered to be a must-have. And you can always pick up the other skill later when you get a Castalia. Rank 5 are the reaction skills. First we have Activation, also called Vitalization. With this reaction skill, her max HP is increased by 12%, and healing received is increased by 30%. This reaction skill is good if you want to increase her tankiness and her self-sustain. Her other reaction skill is called Queen's Grace, also called Queen's Elegance. With this reaction skill, when she's in a healthy status, so her HP is no less than 70%, she can dodge 1 melee attack per round. And when she successfully dodges an attack, she strikes back and deals 50% damage. This reaction skill is amazing because it's giving her the ability to dodge every round, which obviously helps with her sustain, so it should be quite simple to maintain a healthy status, especially since she does have another skill that provides healing, and this reaction skill also allows her to counter back with damage. The dodge you get from Silver Flash will also proc this reaction skill, so it is recommended to pick up Queen's Elegance at rank 5. At rank 7, we have a skill and a passive. First we have Wild Surge. It's also called Wildness Boiling. This is an instant skill, where she'll restore 15% HP, and she also gains Increase Attack 2, which increases her physical and magic attack by 20%. She also gets Regeneration 2, which recovers HP by 20% at the end of the turn, and she receives Increase Healing Received 2, which is a buff that increases healing received by 30%, and all of these buffs last for 3 turns. This is a really great support skill, but her other skill at rank 7 is one of her primary skills. So this skill is called Taste of Prey. It's also referred to as Scent of Prey. So this is a passive that at the start of the turn, if there are enemies within 6 tiles of Agata, she gains Taste of Prey for 2 turns. Taste of Prey is a buff that increases movement by 2 tiles and additionally recovers 1 energy upon launching an active attack. This skill does have a 2-turn cooldown. This skill is important because it gives you energy recovery, and the increased movement is very beneficial as well. But the energy recovery allows you to use your skills more frequently. For example, this is how you can use that skill Queen's Decree every turn, even though it has a 2 cost. The energy recovery is just really beneficial for turn cycling her skills more frequently. So you want to pick up Taste of Prey at rank 7. At rank 9, we have 2 basic attacks. First is Power Strike, also called Powerful Attack. This is a single target attack that deals 55% physical damage 2 times. This is a very straightforward skill, but there's not that much to it. Her other option at rank 9 is called Silencing Attack. This is a single target attack that deals 50% physical damage 2 times. It also inflicts active skill block on injured targets before attacking, and the debuff lasts for 2 turns. So whenever the HP of the enemy is below 70%, it will inflict active skill block on the target. Active skill block is a debuff that makes the target unable to cast any active skills aside from a basic attack. I think it's pretty obvious. This basic attack has more value than the other option, so take Silencing Attack at rank 9. At rank 11, we have 2 damage skills. The first option is Fair Duel. This is a single target attack that deals 180% physical damage. Before attacking, it dispels all debuffs on Agata and all buffs on the enemy target. This is a good skill because it's cleansing all of the debuffs off of Agata while removing all of the buffs on the enemy target. It's not a bad option, it's just her other option at rank 11 is another one of her important skills to get. Her other skill at rank 11 is called Feast. This is a single target attack that deals 40% physical damage 4 times. It also recovers 40% of Agata's HP. And when she's in a healthy status, so her HP is no less than 70%, she also heals all allies within 3 tiles around her by 25% of her HP. This is a great skill because it's providing a lot. It allows her to deal damage while also providing her the ability to heal herself and her allies. It also combos perfectly with her reaction skill, Queen's Elegance, because as long as she remains in a healthy status, she'll be able to dodge 1 melee attack per round. So the Feast skill will allow her to maintain that threshold so that she'll be able to dodge melee attacks. Feast just has a lot of value to it, and it synergizes really well with the rest of her skills. So it is recommended to pick up Feast at rank 11. So for her skill setup, for the basic attack, you're going to have Silencing Attack. And for the reaction skill, you're going to have Queen's Elegance. And as for her 3 skill slots, her primary skill setup is going to include Silver Flash, Taste of Prey, and Feast. This is the perfect skill setup for Agata because it enables her to get more stacks of wound. She'll get energy recovery from Taste of Prey, and Feast gives her great self-sustain while also allowing her to maintain the healthy threshold for her reaction skill so that she could benefit from the dodge and the strike back. These 3 skills synergize incredibly well together. Another option is to swap in Queen's Decree. That's her damage skill that only has 2 costs and no cooldown. This skill pairs really well with Taste of Prey, which is the skill that gives you the energy regeneration. With enough energy regeneration, you can use Queen's Decree every turn. This is a great setup if you want to AoE every turn. The third slot can be either Feast or Silver Flash. Using Feast would allow you to maintain the threshold for her reaction skill. And if you have situations where you just need to knock the enemies off the side, you can put Knockback Pursuit in one of the slots. For her equipment setup, her best weapon is Void Stab. This is going to give you a crit and crit damage increase. You can also use Cornucopia Dagger for the energy recovery. This is great if you're using that skill Queen's Decree. But this dagger also gives you HP recovery, which could help out with her sustain. You can also use something like Newborn Blade. This gives an HP increase, so it would help with her tankiness, and she'll also get a bonus to her damage based on her HP. This is definitely an option if you don't have anything else. But for her weapon, Void Stab is her best option. For her trinket, Maverick's Cloak is her best option, because it gives an increase to attack, defense, and crit rate. This works well because she's a good self-sustaining unit, so it's not difficult to meet the threshold of not having allies within 4 tiles around her to get the bonuses. You can also use something like Flying Blade Arm Guard, or you can use something like Crystal Burst Armor, which increases your HP and strike back damage. And as for her Terror Whisper, you can use Verdict of Justice, which increases her crit rate by 15%. The Magician Terror Whisper is also a good option because her skills are mainly AoE, so this would give a damage increase, and you'll get an additional damage increase for every additional enemy hit. Agata is a powerful self-sustaining DPS with a unique mechanic. She has special buffs like Taste of Prey and Frost Warrior that provide her with damage reduction and increased movement. Her ability to dodge gives her great self-sustain, and her healing ability provides great team-wide sustain. Agata is a strong AoE DPS with the ability to deal more damage through strikebacks and piercing damage. I do want to note that a lot of her power is locked behind star level, and it's recommended that she be at least 3 stars. So keep that in mind when you're deciding whether to summon for her or build her. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Bye.